Wait a minute. You like wrestling?
Of course I like wrestling. That's why I hate it.
Outlaws.
Wrestling is better than the things you like.
Outlaws. You'll take those rattlesnake fangs and you'll stick them right in my ass.
Middle-aged.
Outlaws.
Today I'm middle-aged.
Welcome to episode 40 of the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast. Adam, how goes it? Are you well?
Going good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. I am interested to hear your views on what we've watched in the last couple of weeks. Last time we were on Survivor Series 2016, we dropped back 14 years, is my math right?
Yeah.
2002, and the Oracle decreed that we should watch Unforgiven 2002, which felt a little bit like the start of another new era in professional wrestling. It seems like you agree.
Yeah, I think this dipped probably into a time that I wish I'd seen probably more of, because I think I maybe dipped out of it at some point during this era.
Right.
Whereas, I don't know if it was the era or the show, the Survivor Series 16. I know the whole makeup of it with the multi-person tag matches, it felt a little bit tough to get into. I found this easier to just drop into.
Go straight into I know what you mean. So we're in September 2002. This was coming off the hugely successful SummerSlam 2002 that we've watched before, and I think this might have been their first pay-per-view after the dreaded roster split and draft and all that sort of stuff. So we'll get into that. I'll give you a bit of background about September 2002, as I like to do. Not too much, but a few interesting little tidbits. Kelly Clarkson was crowned the winner of the first ever American Idol. Okay. It feels like Kelly Clarkson's been about for a while, but that's probably because it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Pete Sampras won the men's US Open, beating Andre Agassi in the final.
Classic.
Couple of names for the past. And Serena Williams won the ladies' final, beating her sister.
Okay.
Venus. Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. tied the knot in September 2002.
Nice. I'm a fan of both of their works.
A former WWE writer, of course, and future World Wrestling Federation chairman.
Yeah.
No. Gwen Stefani and Gavin Rossdale also tied the knot. So,
okay.
A lot of love in September 2002.
Yeah.
UK number one.
Right, 2002. Okay.
It's a colour.
It's a colour. Blue?
No, well, that's a good guess, but no, it was pink.
Oh.
With Just Like a Pill.
Oh,
And
okay.
in America, a rapper.
DMX.
Nice. No, but I like it.
Damn
It was
it.
Nelly featuring Kelly Rowland with their song Dilemma.
Okay.
And I've got a new thing that I want to start. That's the UK and US box office number one movies for the month as well. Any guesses for either?
Nah, I got nothing.
Okay, in the UK it was Signs, Mel Gibson's Signs.
Okay.
No, I'm saying Mel Gibson. It's M. Night Shyamalan. Mel Gibson's in it, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know why. In my mind, that would have been longer ago, but okay.
And in the US it's Barbershop.
Barbershop. Okay.
Nice cube thing, I think.
Okay. I've never seen that one.
Oh, there you go. There's your viewing for the weekend.
Yeah, sorted.
Signs and Barbershop. Perfect double header. So that's us. That's September 2002. Let's jump into this Unforgiven pay-per-view, shall we? I think
Let's
there's
do
a
it.
lot to discuss. Things kick off with what I felt was quite a cool video package for. We've of course got 2 titles on the line here. Triple H's big gold World Heavyweight title and Brock Lesnar's newly won WWE
Is it
title?
WWE
World
Heavyweight and the other one's the
Mm.
World title? I can't actually remember what they were referring to them as.
No, I can't remember either. And we get the split commentary teams of JR and King for Raw and Taz and Michael Cole for SmackDown, I want to say.
Yeah, that's right.
I started to find Jerry Lawler quite unbearable during this pay-per-view at times. I was actually finding I quite like Taz and Cole together, which is not a good reflection on JR and King, unfortunately.
Nah, I think, once you've heard King do his thing, especially through Attitude and a wee bit beyond, once you've heard it the first few times, you've kind of heard it. It's done.
Yeah, getting old. So we kick off with a 8-man tag team title match. I was going to say an 8-man tag match. We got our boys, the Un-Americans. Not that we are un-American, but we've got Tess there. We've got Christian, Lance Storm.
There's some top talent in that team.
Yep, and William Regal, of course.
Yep.
And they are taking on a strangely put together team of Booker T, Goldust, Bubba Ray Dudley, and Kane.
Yeah.
This being the point where Vince decided to split the Dudleys up, put one of them on Smack. This was a Deacon Batista and Reverend Devon era, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So he split them up and then continued to have them in tag matches with other people. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
So I wrote down Booker T, Goldust, and the Dudley Boys, and then just Bubba Ray came out, a bit confused. Kane's that sort of miscellaneous thing that you just throw into any sort of position, isn't it?
They clearly just want to have him on the card. It's a really weird team. Booker T's pretty over here. He's very, very popular. A bit of a mishmash of a team. It just kind of felt like I didn't feel like it was massively going to advance story. It was just there.
Just a crowd heater, wasn't it, for the start? Get the Americans some heat. My man Test was looking vicious in this match. He was well up for it.
He was, yeah. I noticed JR. I wonder if something had been said about the previous announcing, because he's trying to put them over as athletes despite his clear dislike of the team and their beliefs. He's doing his best to talk up their credentials as athletes.
Is this the match where he mentions Intercontinental title about 100 times?
Yes.
He's talking about Storm, Christian, Test.
Because that team have all held the Intercontinental title, I think. Yeah, he does talk about it a few times.
I also found this funny that, they've split up Devon and Bubba Ray, but we're still getting all the sort of all the Dudley stuff. But it's just that Booker T's now playing the Devon role, and he's to get the tables and doing the WhatsApp stuff and all that.
I mean, when it's getting that kind of reaction from the crowd, because it's still getting a good reaction here. And if you want to keep doing it, just keep them together. It's not like they ever made much of a singles push for either of them. So,
and it's it seems a bit like, well, we've no competition anymore, so let's just try weird stuff.
Yeah, and I suppose I get trying things because some of it might work, but I don't know. I know that, was it in TNA? I think Bubba Ray Dudley had quite a singles run.
The Bully Ray character.
But I don't ever remember him in WWE or ECW before that ever being a singles guy at all.
Nah, I think he wanted to take the Bully Ray character to WWE, and they said they would never put a character called Bully on TV.
Okay.
So there you go. Not a huge amount to say about this. I think it gets to a point where it all breaks down and they do the classic spot of everybody getting to do their finisher for a while.
Yeah. We get Goldust setting up poor Christian in the corner and hitting Shattered Dreams, and I've got the ref, who is clearly American, hates Canadians and just let that happen, which I was appalled by. But yeah, we've got Bubba hits the Bubba bomb on Christian, and then
I always
Bubba
quite
gets
like
taken
that.
out straight
Quite
away.
like
The
that
Bubba
move.
bomb. Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, so there's a hell of a lot going on, and you're always sort of it plays out the way that Kane and Test are kind of the powerhouses in the match. I always forget the actual size Goldust is as well. He's not dwarfed by any of these guys, but he's just not really positioned in the same way.
Yeah.
And also, there's one thing I just noticed, like how much Regal's style stands out compared to everyone else. Like when he's going ultra aggressive, trying to take people down on the mat and things like. I like the fact he just looks different. His style just looks totally different from everyone else.
It looks a little awkward compared to sort of usual, almost choreographed style, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
There's at one point Test hits a class-looking pump handle slam on Kane. It looked like he was going to struggle to get him up, and then it put him over huge as a sort of powerhouse.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's round about the time where we just get finisher.
Yeah.
Poor, like you say, Christian gets hit with the Shattered Dreams.
Yeah.
Test hits a big boot on Goldust, and Kane sort of reappears from nowhere, hits Lance Storm a chokeslam just as quickly as it started. It's over.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
It was. I mean, it was fine. You know, it got the crowd going a bit. I think, especially some of those Dudley's moves that you talked about. And you've got, you know, you're in America, so the un-Americans, they're going to bring that bit of sort of natural, easy heel heat. And yeah, you know, gets the crowd going. If this kind of match is going to be on a card, I think it made sense to have it where it was. I've clearly been feeling a wee bit funny when I've been doing my notes. I've got the heroes celebrate with an upside down version of the un-Americans flag. Yeah, probably finding myself quite hilarious as I'm writing that.
Class. We've got the back, and I don't know how much you want to talk about the whole HLA stuff throughout this podcast. We can judge it as we go, but we've got Stephanie McMahon backstage with Billy and Chuck, who have just been involved in a commitment ceremony, which was royally ruined by Bischoff and 3-minute warning.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's some sort of bet on that if 3-minute warning beat Billy and Chuck, then Stephanie must engage in what Bischoff calls HLA. If Billy and Chuck win, then what's the stipulation?
Oh, I've got this.
Bischoff has to kiss her ass.
Yeah, that's it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so like I couldn't, like, because I think it feels so like it just wouldn't happen now. You wouldn't have that, and I found it a little bit like uncomfortable watching it and listening through it and thinking this just doesn't quite seem right. I don't know. I don't know. It didn't sit that well. Now it didn't look good. Like on the company's behalf, I don't think having that kind of thing now. But it was a different era, and the crowd were enthusiastic for certain types of things that maybe they wouldn't be so vocally enthusiastic for now.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. We go to the ring. We've got Jericho taking on Ric Flair. It's a rematch from SummerSlam.
Yeah.
For the Intercontinental title. I think this is quite well. This has got its own little sort of interesting sort of ripple to it. But I think we quite liked Jericho Flair at SummerSlam. I think we felt it was a lot of kick punch sort of stuff. But the way that they both pulled it off, it was done really well, and I felt the same with this as well. How about you?
Yeah, when it started, I remembered the fact we'd watched it on that other show, and I kind of thought law of averages, that was quite good. I'm not sure that can happen again, but pleasant surprise, I think. I enjoyed the match. I think, you know, with where Flair is in his career here, it probably makes a lot of sense if you're going to have him on a card, have him up against somebody like Jericho who can do fair bit of the heavy lifting and
Mhm.
you know, bounce around the ring a fair bit, keep the eyeballs on the ring, because you know the days of Flair being able to do that were pretty far gone by this point.
Yeah.
I think you've got a kind of a natural storyline of the guy who's a little bit past his peak, but was the guy that so many looked up to in the early days and things like that, against the, you know, the young lion type who's working his way again up the card. Yeah, I enjoyed this. Again, I don't have a whole lot of, you know, moves and things like that
Mhm.
in my notes, but I thought just in terms of match and storytelling throughout it as well was pretty good.
Yeah, me too. I like this version of Jericho.
Hmm.
Just the big sort of goat beard, ponytail, laying it on thick as a sort of cocky, cocky little shit, basically.
Hmm. Yeah.
Completely disrespecting Flair. And this match, I felt similar to some of these Shamrock Rock matches where quite a decent match, and then it's all about the finish.
Hmm.
I really like the finish to this.
Yeah,
It's just
me too.
different.
Yeah.
You know, when you're watching wrestling all the time, it's very rare to see something that you've not seen before, or very rare
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah.
So we get Flair as he would, working on Jericho's knee a little bit, building up to figure four, and Jericho starts to sort of beg him off and say, like, I'm really hurt, stop. And Flair's kind of reluctant. He's almost like he's going to hit him, and then backs off
Yeah.
eventually. He backs off, and he's back. I think he's backed up in the corner by the ref.
Yeah.
And Jericho jumps up, clearly showing to the crowd that there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. Grabs a hold of Flair, slaps on the walls, and he's got no other choice but to tap out. He's smack bang in the middle of the ring,
Yeah.
and he runs off, tapping his head and laughing away to himself.
Hmm.
It shortened the match, but I think that's absolutely fine. I thought
Yeah.
it was really good.
Yeah, I liked it. And you know, you've got the sort, I think it's mentioned by JR a few times of Flair with his reputation of, you know, dirtiest player in the game, will do whatever it takes to win and things like that. And then Jericho's effectively turning the tables on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's using a cheap trick to win the match. I thought the referee sold it pretty well. Was it Charles Robinson? Was it Little Nate that was
I
ref?
think it was, yeah.
I thought he sold it well, because he actually just looks quite disgusted, and he doesn't want to crown the Jericho the winner. He's angry about this, but you know, he's not actually got any choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was, you know, good. I'm sure I've seen this show before, but it wasn't fresh in my mind, and I didn't remember this as what the finish was going to be.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, I think we've talked about it a few times over shows. We've talked about every time you see something that's not been done a lot, that's pretty rare. It jumps out at you. It's different. It feels 20 years old, but it feels fresh because you've not
Aye.
seen it.
Aye.
So yeah, really enjoyed the finish.
Yeah, totally agree. So we're really pushing this 3-minute warning, Billy and Chuck match. So we're backstage with Bischoff. He's with 3-minute warning, and he brings in Rico, who will be supporting 3-minute warning. Not sure how, you know, they don't seem to be getting much choice in the matter, but here he is anyway. A lot of innuendos. I mean, we're laying the innuendos on thick here. Probably the highlight being that he says he knows Billy and Chuck inside and out.
Yep.
I say highlight, low light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rico was aligned with Billy and Chuck, wasn't he? He's actually, I think it comes across, or they position it as the whole commitment ceremony thing was kind of his idea.
It was a ruse, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he'd been aligned with them as basically their manager for quite some time before that, and now he's very much aligned with Bischoff and trying to be in Bischoff's good books and give all the insider info that he's got about Billy and Chuck to 3-minute warning.
But I believe he was their stylist.
Yeah,
before he was their manager.
It feels quite funny because, you know, you've sort of touched on it. You've got these two big title matches coming up in this match, but it feels like so much of the program is built around this storyline between, and there's very good performers in these tag teams, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But it just feels like such an underneath story to be getting all this sort of build through the show. It's weird.
And it got a lot of, it seemed to get a lot of TV time building up to it as well. It's all Bischoff and Stephanie, I suppose. But.
Yeah.
Okay, we go into our next match. We've got Mikey, Cole, and Taz is what I've got written on my notes on commentary. Just for those that are wondering, no frosted tips on Michael Cole at this point. And we get a very good, very decent wrestling match. We get Eddie Guerrero, who's clearly in his bulking up phase, I would say, noticeably bigger at this point, versus Edge. And I want to say this is at the point where Eddie, Edge, Benoit, Angle, Mysterio were all basically competing in world-class wrestling matches like every week on SmackDown.
Yeah. SmackDown kind of became known as the wrestling show, while Raw became known as like the storyline show.
Storyline stuff,
And it's there's so much talent in like on one show, and able to just mix and match who's facing who for each period of time and things like that. I was really excited when I saw this on the card because they're guys that I've seen a lot of matches for each of them, and I've seen a lot of really good matches for each of them, but there weren't all that many springing out as these two opposing each other. So I was thinking this should feel again a little bit new, a little bit different. It was probably one that jumped out at me most when we were looking at the card.
And did it pull through? Did it come through, do you think?
I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was must-see. I thought it was a decent match. I think, maybe it ties in with not having seen them an awful lot together. Maybe they didn't have like the amazing chemistry that you do see with some of these performers. But I thought it was a pretty good match.
I see. I think that's fair. I'm not sure how long it went, but it did feel like it maybe went a little bit long. A lot of Eddie on top, a lot of chicken shit heel behaviour, a lot of trying to slow Edge down. But probably no real massive highlights apart from the finish that I really liked the finish.
Yeah, it's 12 minutes, which is
it?
Pretty long. Yeah, like in the context of this show, it's pretty long. I enjoyed the finish as well. I've got a few things in my notes about some of the moves that go on. I'm not. We seem to be in like prime chair shot to the head era just now, because from SmackDown they show a bit of video of a chair shot from Eddie to Edge, and then Edge is obviously big babyface at this point. And Eddie's.
Do you think they pipe in the screaming when he comes in? There's always screaming.
Maybe, because it does seem like surely some of these shows that wouldn't happen, depending on where you are and things like that. Yeah, possibly. Wouldn't put it past them at all. And you've got Eddie basically right from the off. He shoves the ref in front of Edge and runs out the ring. He's just playing that sort of sneaky heel character, and it's not even big stuff a lot of the time. It's just little things that I always thought he was really good at doing those. It was, I think, hard to keep him heel at times because the crowd liked him so much. But even as a babyface, he was still doing quite a lot of the same sneaky stuff. Kind of thing you don't maybe see an awful lot of nowadays. Got a second rope tornado DDT by Eddie on Edge. And they're talking up a storyline about Edge having had a concussion.
I was laughing at that.
Yeah.
It's almost like a positive. Oh, he suffered a concussion on Thursday.
Yeah.
And now, 20 years down the line, we're talking about Miami Dolphins quarterback.
Yeah, Tua.
And just being just being absolutely horrified at the thought of him being out there on a Thursday after a Sunday.
Yeah, because they're really talking about the fact it's 3 days ago. 3 days ago he had this concussion, but doctors have told him not to go, but he's gonna go now. I couldn't tell you what they obviously didn't know as much back then, but nowadays it obviously you just wouldn't be allowed. You wouldn't be in the ring.
Yeah, and I don't even think they would do that in kayfabe. Obviously, it's kayfabe the way that they're talking, but
Yeah.
I don't even think they would do that in kayfabe.
No, I think it's too close to the bone with some things that have happened. We've got suplex by Eddie for a 2, and then armbar. There are a few sort of rest hold type moves in here, which is okay in terms of pacing and things like that. We've got Edge charging the corner, Eddie just getting out of the way. Small package attempt, then a neck breaker by Edge. But every time he's performing these moves, he's selling his own neck and the head and things like that, which is just good psychology. It's exactly what he should be doing in that situation. Right hands and an atomic drop by Edge, and then I never know what to call this move, basically, where they seem to jump and grab the person by the head and slam them face first into the mat.
Like an X Factor type thing.
Kinda, yeah. But there's that move happens at least a couple of times on this show by different performers, and every time I've written in my notes, I don't really know what you would call that.
Just go for a Vince and call it like a modified anything. Modified reverse suplex.
We've got Eddie going for a Hurricane Rana from the top, Edge catching him and hitting a nice sit-down powerbomb for a 2. We've got Eddie up on Edge's shoulders. I think the announcer says looking for a victory roll or that type of move, but Edge basically just throws him off and on the turnbuckle. Edge going for a spear, Eddie dodging it, Edge stopping himself from hitting the corner, Edge hitting it's execution, isn't it?
Execution.
DDT.
Yeah.
But Eddie too close to the ropes, gets his foot on to make the break.
Yeah.
Edge going for a missile drop kick from the top, Eddie getting out of the way, Edge hitting the mat pretty hard. Yeah.
I always wonder how wrestlers feel about it. Samoa Joe used to do that, I know, a lot in TNA, where people would just like launch themselves out. He would just literally like walk out of the way. I always wonder how wrestlers feel about that. It seems a bit a cop out.
It does, but then every time I've seen it done, I've thought, well, that is what you would just do,
It's almost too simple.
Yeah. It probably doesn't make the other guy look great, or whoever doesn't do it the next time look great either. We must be heading towards the finish here. So I've got Eddie with a sunset flip from the turnbuckle, powerbombing. No, that can't be right. Powerbombing Eddie onto the mat, but it must have been Edge onto the mat. Eddie grabbing the tights just to make sure as the ref counts 3. Oh, I missed the exposed turnbuckle bit, didn't I?
Yes, he used that to stun him and then
hit
it.
So I think Eddie had a couple of attempts at getting that turnbuckle pad off, and once it kind of comes back to bite him, but in the end he hits Edge when they're both stood up on the Eddie stood up on the turnbuckle. Edge just grabs Edge's head and smacks him down into the exposed turnbuckle.
That's right. That's a good finish.
Yeah.
And a big win, I would say, for Eddie, because I want to say Edge was probably king of the ring at that point.
Yeah, I think so. It certainly felt like the build to Edge eventually being in like world title picture has started, and Eddie going into this match, I kind of assumed Edge would win it. I didn't mind either way, but it probably was considered a little bit of a shock, I would have thought. But they're obviously kind of protecting Edge by having the concussion story and things like that, and the fact that the head was so prominent in the finish.
Fair. So interested to hear what you think of this next segment. So Triple H goes into I always think it's funny, going into the Raw locker room, and he tells RVD, he has a big go at him, saying you've got no passion, you've got nothing about you, like you're getting ready for a title match and you're just sat there. And he points at Flair and he says, "This guy, at first he's sort of bumming him up, and then he's making it out like he used to have it. He used to do this. He used to do that." And I've got here is this planting seeds for evolution. Now, obviously, what it's meant to do is plant seeds that Flair's pissed off about this, but ultimately, what it seems to end up doing is lighting a fire under him. How do you think RVD comes off in this?
Not great. Like
No.
I get the feeling. Yeah, we remember him, I think, from the ECW days, and they've pushed almost this laid-back surfer dude type, gimmick on him, and I think it's not really him, and I just think he really struggles to get the promos out and all that. Like everything he was saying didn't change or didn't make me think different from what Triple H was saying. I was looking at it thinking, is he right then? Is this heel that's being a dick? Is he just right? And then also, he kind of buries Flair a little bit at the end as well, because he basically says something like, well, yeah, he is washed up, he is a loser, but I'd rather associate with him than you. And I'm thinking, is that the way that was supposed to come off?
A backhanded compliment, if ever you heard one. Aye, that's right. That's funny. They show a little bit in the build-up video as well, where RVD's like, "Triple H, you've shown the world that you are really good at spitting water," and then he's like pretending to do the whole spitting water thing, and that it just comes across a bit like, this is silly.
Yeah.
Maybe coming from like The Rock or something like that, maybe being funny.
Yeah, he maybe could have made it work, just with that sort of extra levels of charisma. Yeah, it didn't. I would have preferred an RVD that wasn't. Remember when he was his big sort of shtick was, "I'm too big for this company" when he was in ECW, and that worked, and it can't really work once he makes the move to WWE. Even if you'd seen someone in the background about, I'm a laid back guy, but I am working my ass off for this. This is the biggest match of my life, or something.
There you go. He doesn't even need to talk, really.
Yeah.
I'll do my talking in the ring. The Benoit type thing. Anyway. We go to our HLA versus Kiss My Ass tag team match. Billy and Chuck versus 3 Minute Warning. And 3 Minute Warning are Rosie and Jamal. Rosie, I want to say, is Roman Reigns' brother. Jamal, a cousin.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yep.
Big, burly Samoan beasts who are presented in exactly that way. Total ass kickers. They seem to have adopted this role as Bischoff's henchmen. Bischoff would say, "You've got three." Basically, over the course of the shows, he would be saying stuff like, "You've got 3 minutes to show me something." And then when the 3 minutes was up, he would send them out and they'd wreck the ring and send everyone packing.
Yeah.
And they were very convincing.
Yeah, I liked them. Like them, they have good tag combos and all that, but they just both look like badasses, and they can move as well, which is
really, really mobile.
Which is almost quite like unsettling, because the size of them, they shouldn't be able to move like that.
And super kicks, and like defensive linemen in the NFL, and they're hitting super kicks and all sorts.
Yeah.
Rosie hits a second rope moonsault, or he goes for a second rope moonsault at one point. He misses, but it's still like really impressive.
Yeah.
Cole says as they're coming out, they're from the hood, so to speak.
Yeah. What's that?
That's questionable. Why do they keep describing them as equal opportunity ass kickers? That has been said about 12 times. Is it just because they've beaten up women, or is it because of the Billy and Chuck like sort of gay
possibly. I wasn't sure. Like I heard the phrase a few times, but I didn't really know where they were going with that.
It's a pretty standard tag team match, I would say, but I was really, really taken aback and impressed by 3 Minute Warning. I know you were as well. We text back and forward about it.
Yeah.
It's a real shame that I'm not really sure how much longer they're in the company. I think I read that Jamal was released in 2003. I know Rosie went on to be the Hurricanes' fat sidekick,
Oh yeah.
superhero in training. Shit.
Superhero in training. Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
And then they brought Jamal back as Umaga, who was, although I didn't really watch at that time, came across like a total beast,
Yeah.
total badass.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that this match was like all about them. Look, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're working tag combinations. That it's so quick. Like you mentioned, the moonsault, and for a long time, it's basically the two of them working over Chuck,
Chuck, yeah.
and then Billy eventually gets the hot tag in, and they make him look good for a few moves, clotheslines, drop kicks.
You know that the clothesline sell that Rikishi does, where they say turns him inside out. One of them does
Yeah.
that. It looks brilliant.
Yeah. And then, he goes for the knocking their heads together, which obviously they're either Samoan or they're from the hood, so it's not going to work. So yeah, they just kind of look back at him and then they double headbutt Billy, and that's his little charge of momentum on the go. Got Jamal going up to the top turnbuckle, going to leap on Billy, but Chuck's throws him off the turnbuckle. Chuck with a big kick on Rosie, then Jamal hitting Chuck with a big kick of his own. Famouser by Billy on Jamal, but Rosie grabs the ref, stops him from making the count. Billy with a big clothesline on Rico. And then Rosie and Jamal back up and hit Billy with, I can't remember which one it was, but one of them hits Billy with a big Samoan drop for the 3 count and the win.
Yeah, it was Rosie. That's a cool move. They basically throw him up in the air and catch him and Samoan drop. Awesome. So 3-minute warning win, and Bischoff is doing his whole shit-eating grin shtick. And there's more to come from Mr. Bischoff. That is what happens prior to the main event. Well,
I don't know why they didn't just get this all over and done with here and now.
Yeah, it's peppered right through this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So we go to our first of 2 championship matches. Wonder if Triple H would felt at this point about being almost in the middle of the card. Doesn't seem like something that would sit necessarily very well with him.
Yeah. So they've gone through a storyline here where you touched on the brand extension.
Mm-hmm.
Each show has a separate roster, and as a result, SmackDown had the world champion. So Raw needed a champion, and I assumed this was like a heat-getting exercise, but instead of a tournament or anything like that, Bischoff just crowns Triple H Raw's champion, which I think it's the old WCW belt, isn't it?
Yeah,
that they use for that. So yeah, I suppose I get it. It feels like potentially a missed opportunity, but if you want Triple H to have all the heat and just be this sort of entitled guy, well, they've just literally handed him the title. So
yeah,
I suppose that ticks that box.
I feel like obviously this is Triple H going into his evolution phase, but he's definitely going for a different he's certainly going for a different look. He's got a kind of bigger sideburns and that. He's almost coming across like an old school wrestler. A little bit.
I think like Harley Race type with the facial hair and things like that. Yeah.
He's obviously trying to do something different. This is when they start wearing the suits and the big collars and the shirts and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I really like Triple H. I don't love RVD. I wasn't really looking forward to this, but I really, really enjoyed it. I thought they had really good chemistry. They seem to work really well together. It's probably the best match I've seen RVD in.
Yeah, it kind of made me wonder. I was impressed as well, and I kind of didn't know what to expect because in my mind, backstage somewhere, Triple H is saying, "I don't want to go in with this guy. He's dangerous. He's all kicks and things like that. I don't want to do that." And I think he did end up sustained a bit of an injury in one match between the two, I think.
Yeah, he hit his frog splash. He crushed his windpipe
Oh, was it? So
in
that's,
Elimination Chamber.
Right. Okay. So yeah, and there's such different styles, but then it made me wonder if, because I enjoyed this as well, if maybe what RVD needed was someone who is that bit more old school in terms of the way they work in the ring and be a total like contrast. Because once we get talking about the match, RVD is doing quite a bit of old school style wrestling in it. As I think part of the story, because the theory is, well, Triple H will beat you like that. But yeah, I was quite impressed by what RVD can do beyond what we so often see him do. I thought
Almost frustrating to watch.
Yeah,
because I've definitely been put off by RVD matches because it's all the same stuff. And he was almost wrestling like Bret Hart in this match. He's using a lot of side headlock takedowns to control Triple H, and obviously, it's all, they're all working together. But I thought it was really, really impressive. I loved it. And he was getting under Triple H's skin. He's doing the whole water bottle stuff. That worked in the ring during the match because Triple H sells it so well. He sells getting frustrated and he sort of flies into everything and gets countered. So really good storytelling.
Yeah, the styles effectively flip because you're going into this being told Triple H is the cerebral assassin, and he'll be methodical, he'll take his time and all that, he'll out wrestle RVD, but RVD will be careless and he'll make mistakes, he'll get frustrated, all that kind of thing. So I thought they did well at switching that round, because as soon as RVD is doing these wrestling moves, you've got Triple H out of the ring shouting, kicking stuff, and then rushing in to try and get the advantage, and it's a complete flip of what you've been told to expect for this match, which I liked. I thought Triple H sold that really well. He played up to that, which you wouldn't normally see him have to do. It's a totally different scenario from his normal matches. This one, this was good. This was good fun.
And then, sort of playing into that, it does turn around when RVD goes back to the high flying stuff. Triple H is outside and he goes for a sort of somersault over the top rope, and Triple H does the same as what we were just talking about earlier, just moves out of the way.
Yeah.
And that was a hell of a landing for RVD.
I thought, see when he was trying to get back in the ring, I'm sure he was counted out. I mean, come on, ref.
He was just standing up. But like,
I don't know if he
half his body in.
I don't know if he lost track of where the ref was with the count or something like that, because I was looking at it. Well, he can't possibly make it, and he had one arm in or something, and that seemed to be enough to break the count.
I think JR even says the referee being a little lenient with his. What have we got from there? So Triple H pretty much takes over or starts going to the well, sort of thing, with a lot of his breaking them down moves. But I felt like RVD was doing so I've got here, we're getting a lot of RVD's now signature moves during back and forth, but it feels like they're at appropriate times and not just shoehorned in because they're interesting or fun spots or whatever.
Yeah, because I think by this point in the match, Triple H is basically dominating, and RVD's having these moments that are just like counters and things like that, and it looks like your traditional RVD move, but then it's kind of being squashed pretty quickly by Triple H just taking control again. That worked, I thought, and the pacing of that worked as well.
We get to the point Triple H comes off the ropes. RVD leapfrog is the word I'm looking for. Leapfrogs him, and he completely wipes out Hebner. How do you learn how to take a bump like that? He absolutely destroys him. He goes flying at the ring. RVD sees this as his opportunity, hits a 5-star frog splash, but of course, wee Hebs is lying out outside. He's burst, and who comes out? The dirtiest player in the game. Everybody's getting excited because they think he's going to hit Triple H. He's got a sledgehammer with him.
Yep. So Flair, yeah, he's coming up. Just remember all those demeaning comments by Triple H. You're just waiting for him to get his comeuppance here now.
Doesn't he get it, does he? Poor
No.
RVD gets rattled with a sledgehammer. Pedigreed. 1, 2, 3. Hebner's back in the ring. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. A thoroughly satisfying match where you don't bury RVD. I assume he's still in there in the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Triple H maintains his title. You've got an interesting thing going on with Triple H and Flair. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. We sort of messaged back and forth after this had been watched, questioning the timeline and where we were. I think from here
Evolution.
to Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
So when I looked it up, I could see Flair actually acts as this sort of second for Triple H for a little while, just between the two of them, and then a little bit down the line, Batista gets brought in. But where are we month wise here? We're September. So I think it's by January, February the following year that Orton is brought on board as like the final piece. It's actually a really good stable, and I know I wasn't watching all the time there, but when you think of the makeup of it, where you've got like the veteran who's won it all and been there and seen it and all that. You've got Triple H, who I suppose is the current top guy, the guy who's won his championships, and his trajectory is going towards where Flair got to. And then these two, well, Orton was particularly young. I don't know if Batista was ever all that young, but
no, young to the game though, I think.
Yeah, and if you're bringing these guys under these guys' wing, for a start, it makes sense because you can go a hell of a lot of directions storyline wise. But I imagine even just the being there with them, traveling with them, all that kind of thing was probably, much as Orton went off the rails a few times in his younger days, it was probably a really good like education into the business and being at the top of the card and things like that for those guys.
Yeah, I've definitely read that from Batista before, saying he pretty much learned everything he knew about the business in the car for Triple H.
And one of my favourite storylines was the Batista Triple H thing that they eventually get to. And Batista was a guy Triple H was clearly, even then, very willing to put over and things like that, and totally made him. Yeah, so there's a lot of good will come out of where they get to, and Orton's obviously had his own ridiculous career as well.
And I think I said to you the SmackDown before this pay-per-view, they had Lesnar v Orton, kind of in a squash scenario, but Orton's clearly, they're talking him up very young. He's doing all the crossbody off the top rope and stuff like that, so they've obviously pegged him as well. Yeah. Women's titles on the line next. Trish Stratus and Molly Holly. I assume Molly. So this match I didn't watch with the commentary on. I assume that Molly's not in right to censor. She just so happens to be wearing a white top and black trousers. I take it right to censor aren't a thing at this point. They were more 2000s, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she ever fully reverted back to. I can't think of her. She aligned with. You mentioned them earlier.
Hurricane. She was a superhero type character for a while.
Yeah, she was for a bit, and that's probably what's next for her, I would think.
Right.
But yeah, if you didn't have the commentary on here, you missed.
Oh, was it King?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so it was one of the points where he'd been, drooling over Trish, and these were the words.
Oh dear.
I don't have to be dead to donate my organ. Yeah.
Dear. Yeah. Do you know what the travesty is? I don't know if travesty is maybe an exaggeration, but on a pay-per-view that is featuring HLA so prominently, and the whole woo, these two actually have a fairly decent wrestling match. I feel like there's an actual effort from, don't know if it's from them two, from whoever put it together, whoever booked it, blah blah blah, to try and push them both as wrestlers. They have a fairly decent wrestling match that wouldn't be out of place in wrestling at the moment.
Hmm. So I think it's always been known that Molly was a pretty good worker. Think she, you can, a lot of like models or whatever they were brought in and then try to make them wrestlers. I think she came in as a wrestler.
Right.
And had the background, had the experience, and I think probably in the hope that pair her with some of these people and get some good matches out of them and things like that. But I think at this point, JR's putting over every time King stops. JR's trying to talk about how much Trish has improved in the ring since first coming in to the WWE, and I think it does show here. She ends up. I'm sure she and Lita headlined a Raw or something like that before that was ever, commonplace, way before that was commonplace. But yeah, I think this is maybe just her sort of getting to that level where she's starting to get the respect as an actual wrestler.
Yeah, it's fairly decent. I mean, I'm not. I don't really. I don't know if you want to break it down, but I mean, our finish is a bulldog.
Yeah, I've got a few bits and pieces. We've got what was it? Trish with the Stratisfaction Bulldog for a 2. Trish going for a Hurricane Rana, but Molly catching her legs, tying her up in the turnbuckle and stretching her. Molly with a running handspring move to squash Trish in the corner.
Squash.
And then Trish, with a counter into a Bulldog for the win. And that's so she wins the belt there because I think Molly's champ going in. It's Trish's 3rd title at that point.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And randomly they have Coach waiting to ask her, and she cuts like an Uber babyface promo for about 3 seconds because she's absolutely knackered. Clearly.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got a match which seems to have developed over Kurt Angle getting hit with stink face and Benoit laughing at him.
Yeah.
And it builds up from there over what seems like a few SmackDowns. I was listening to Angle's podcast about this match a couple of nights ago, and the guy that's presenting it with him, not sure who it was, he said it's an interesting thing that you've got a match here and neither one of you has cut a single promo against each other in the build-up. Yeah. And Angle's like, well, you didn't need one. It's Angle v Benoit. What more do you need?
It's a fair point.
It is a fair point. It is.
And I think, I've heard Angle speak about his matches with Benoit and his teaming with Benoit at times, which he did at points over probably just in the build up to this, I think. And talking about the fact that he felt that Benoit was the only other person that brought anywhere near the level of intensity that Angle did. So he never, in terms of storyline and all that kind of thing, I think he would have felt being laughed at by the other for anything. It is enough because they're that competitive. They want to be the best wrestler in the company. There's that intensity, and it takes so little to tip it, and then basically have them going at each other, which does all make sense from storyline point of view. I don't know, like I can think of 3 matches they've had between the two of them. I'm sure there were a lot more than that, on TVs and things like that as well. I know that there's some that Angle looks back very, very happy with, and some not so much. I was trying to remember if this was one of the ones he didn't feel it went quite perfectly in terms of what they wanted to do.
So he was saying that Benoit basically just said to him, Angle would say to him, how do you want to build this match? And Benoit would just say, just whatever you want to do, I'll just go with it. And Angle was saying, as a fairly novel, pretty new to the business, he always appreciated that, but he was always surprised because he thought the veteran would want to sort of put it all out there and work out what they were going to do. But he just said Benoit was so good that he could essentially just adapt to whatever they wanted to do, which was pretty cool. Yeah, I think this reminded me of a match I think they had on a Mania. Was this WrestleMania? It would have been WrestleMania 17. They had quite a similar match.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah,
where they just do a bit of chain wrestling, you call it, like amateur wrestling to start off with.
Yeah.
And I texted you about this, and I was like, so I was about 5 minutes into it, and I was like, oh, I was really looking forward to this, but I wonder if I've built up in my mind how good their matches were, because to me, I was enjoying it, but I just felt the crowd were just no into it at all. And I wonder if that point about promos and storyline meant that they weren't really that into it to start off with.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. And it is difficult because, you know, we're looking back thinking in hindsight about a body of work that we know is there, and we know that these two had some of the best matches that we've seen. And we know that, again, in hindsight, that sort of competitive edge, from what Angle says, it was real. Like, he not within a match wanting to get the pin or anything like that, but he wanted to be able to outperform Benoit, and he knew that Benoit wanted to be able to outperform him. And sort of knowing that rivalry, in the best possible way, because, you know, you do it right, you both get over, but that rivalry was a real thing, which is quite, I don't think I ever thought of stuff in that way before. I think I've thought of jealousy about card position and things like that, you know, or oh, I wish they would put the belt on me, not that guy, kind of thing. But actually going into the ring and wanting to outshine the guy that you maybe think is the best, just personal pride and things like that, you know. I found that quite interesting when listening to some of Angle's stuff, because he goes back to Benoit quite a lot, just because he's probably definitely one of his most famous opponents, and in terms of the matches they had between them. But yeah, you can see the level of intensity, and I know that when I was watching it, I did pick up on the crowd thing. I think I thought it was maybe a bit quiet or a bit disengaged really early on. I think I maybe thought it'd come back in a little bit quicker than you'd mentioned to me, because I looked at your message and I thought, did it take that long for them to feel like they were getting into it? But they got there.
Oh, they definitely got there. And again, it's heel v heel, I suppose, as well. So there's no, I was thinking, like, there's no Angle looking at the crowd. There's no riling them up sort of stuff that you might normally get, but then it's heel versus heel.
Yeah.
We get to a point where Kurt goes flying into turnbuckles. He goes towards Benoit, misses, and goes shoulder first into the pole behind the turnbuckles. Benoit gives him another shot at it, and we see Benoit start to take over and work on Angle's shoulder, getting him ready for the crossface. It's round about this point where they turn it up. It's almost like a switch, and they start trading German suplexes. And what we normally get is Benoit going for the 3 suplexes. He manages to get 2. Angle reverses it, hits 2 of his own, and they just start trading back and forward. And it sounds, I don't think it sounds as impressive as what it actually is. The way that they're going back and forth, it's really, really good. And eventually Benoit sort of puts a final stop on it and turns Angle upside down, does a sort of backward flip one. It's pretty class.
Yeah, I was watching, thinking, where do you get, or how do you get, like, the strength and the energy and the just throwing each other? I know, you know, there's easy ways and more difficult ways. There's guys that make it very easy to throw them, and I'm sure they were both doing that. But I'm still watching, thinking, like, the strength, the energy levels, the cardio to keep going, and then, as you say, I think turn up the intensity part of the way through, and then for a good few minutes, almost like it's just flat out. Yeah, impressive stuff.
That's cool. We get that spot where Benoit's on the top rope and Angle runs from one end of the ring to the other and throws him off.
Yeah.
Jumps up on the turnbuckles. That was cool. I wonder, I wonder if just one day they just came up with that. Because it's a bit of an Angle staple, isn't it? It's really cool.
Yeah, that's right.
We get Angle kicking out of the headbutt. Benoit slaps on the crossface, but they start then trading ankle lock and crossface, and the way that they transition between the two moves, again, it's like sight to behold. They're just rolling
Uh-huh.
back and forward all over the place, pulling at these submissions.
It's really well done. I was almost picturing like a backstage situation where they're putting their move on that like well, what can we do? What
How
makes
can I
sense?
get to
What
your ankle from?
yeah. I did wonder, and I think it worked because it's these two. I think it might have annoyed me if it had been others, but I did wonder at a point, is this too much? Is there been so we've got like a crossface and an ankle lock, which have been relatively well protected. You know, it's usually if somebody's getting out of it, it's he's too close to the ropes, the person can just reach out type thing. And I did wonder if the amount of reversals and counters and things like that was it a wee bit too much. But then, as I'm watching it, I put that in my notes, but I didn't think it as I was watching. So I wonder if
Right.
it's maybe more something I'm overthinking, and these guys they are getting away with it as they're doing it. But yeah, it was just something I wondered: is it too much?
Especially when then that's essentially what leads to the finish, where Angle then puts on the crossface on Benoit. As Benoit's trying to get to the ropes, Angle pushes back with his foot on the rope, which I've never seen anybody do before.
No.
And clearly you're not allowed to do that because Kyoto was like right in his face. 1, 2.
Yeah, I was thinking. My first thought was, well, why would he not be allowed to do that? But then I thought, well, you can't have, as the person executing it, you can't have your foot on the ropes anyway. So
Right.
he would, because like leverage, things
Yep.
like that. So yeah, it did make sense for the ref to stop that.
Benoit reverses it into a roll up and he uses the same rope that Angle's just tried to cheat to win with to get the 3 count. And Benoit wins and he's chuckling away at himself on the way back up the ramp, which is quite good. Interesting to hear Angle say, like on his podcast, he was talking about Benoit and saying a lot of people get quite annoyed when Chris Benoit gets brought up. But if you erase Chris Benoit, you essentially erase Kurt Angle because of the number of matches and how closely linked they are. And you can understand that, I suppose, from his point of view.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think we've talked about it a couple of times, is the sort of separating what he did from the work, the in-ring work, which I think I am able to do. I always wonder when I'm about to watch one of his matches, it sort of crosses my mind: is this going to be easy? Because I always thought is the
It's the
particularly
chair
like
shots and all that, isn't it?
yeah, I mean things that fed into clearly doing a hell of a lot of damage, that then obviously horrifically had a huge impact on a few people's lives. But I am still able to separate. I can enjoy his matches, which from a selfish point of view is a good thing.
Yeah. So we're at our HLA segment. How about you read your notes and then I'll read my notes and then we can kind of summarize what happens.
Okay. So is this them actually coming out? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Bischoff comes out with a couple of women.
Yeah. Did you hear what Fink announces them as?
No.
The lesbians.
For God's sake.
Yeah. Okay. Bischoff says tonight LA stands for lesbian action, and the girls are called Peaches and Cream.
For Christ's sake.
And they are apparently the finest lesbians in LA. Bischoff stops them just as they're about to very much please the crowd by kissing each other, and he says that the only HLA that'll take place tonight will involve Stephanie. Brings Stephanie down to the ring. Bischoff said he never said it'd be one lesbian, it'll be a 3-way, and encourages the other girls to start taking off some clothes. They go to Steph, take off her coat, give her a back rub. Bischoff seems he's a little bit all over the place. He's like enjoying this, but then he's like, no. And then he says that he's changed his mind. He excuses the other girls from the ring, but not Stephanie. Bischoff says he wants it to be humiliating. He wants an ugly lesbian for Steph. He says he saw one at his hotel and brought her to the venue. And out comes this slightly larger woman. Steph looks pretty scared at first, and then immediately jumps and gets into the kissing and quite a bit of groping. And this apparent woman then kicks Bischoff, and it turns out it's Rikishi. Rikishi squashes Bischoff. Stink faces him in the corner, and the last bit of my notes is that's more than enough of all that.
That pretty much summarizes it all up, I would say. Just to add to it, I've wrote HLA segment, sorely tempted to fast forward this. Jesus Christ, do all these women gyrate like they've got fleas, or is it just the actors that WWE hire? This is repulsive. These women are forcing themselves on Stephanie while she just stands there. Now Bischoff has got some person in drag, Hildegard in brackets, to come out. This is not sports entertaining. It's Rikishi, stink face. Imagine switching this on and not knowing what it was. It's like a terrifying Mrs. Doubtfire sequel.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think back to what my thoughts were about this whole segment at the time, because I couldn't remember it. I didn't remember how it was going to play out or anything like that. But it just plays horribly now. Horribly.
Shocking. It's really bad. And it feels like they put a lot of time and effort into it as well.
Which makes it worse. If it was just a throwaway thing that was like 3 minutes of the entire show, you'd be like, whatever.
I see what you did there, 3 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah. Did I just hear myself say 3 minutes?
It's
okay.
Nobody's about to charge into your room and, in 2 minutes, 50 seconds and say that you weren't entertaining enough.
Start Simone dropping me. So that's our title match. We get a video package to sort of show Lesnar destroying all these legends. Hogan.
Did he smear himself in Hogan's blood?
Yeah, he took a chair to him and did all that.
That was pretty weird.
It was. Works his way up to Undertaker at this horrible bit where he's kind of got Sarah at the time, Taker's wife, against the wall. She's pregnant. He puts his hand on her pregnant belly. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
No,
I don't like that at all.
I suppose what you can take from it is Undertaker has every right to now lose his cool, lose his shit, and just fucking go for him, which is, fine. But yeah, there was something really unsettling about that, though.
There was. So we're painting this picture that he's like this young, I don't know, they're still calling him the next big thing, even though he's champion, which I always found odd. Yeah. But he's like this young killer. He's taken out all the old guard, and Taker's next in line. He's already beaten The Rock. He beat Hulk Hogan. He beat a bunch of other people in Raw, hadn't he, where he was just destroying people.
Yeah.
And Taker's next. This is Biker Taker. So he's obviously coming across as this ass kicker rather than a sort of crazy person. And I like they're in the ring and Lesnar just marches straight over to him and squares right up to him. I quite like that. He definitely gives off the kind of he's got the kind of cocky young thing going on with his personality.
Yeah.
We've got a Brock fears the mic sign that I thought was quite funny in the crowd at this point. So although Brock goes over and squares up to him, Taker sort of starts dealing out a bit of an ass kicking.
Yeah.
At the start of this match, doesn't he? Start throwing him all over the shop.
Yeah, they position it as Lesnar wants to take Undertaker down to the mat. He wants to make it a wrestling match, whereas Undertaker basically just wants to stand there and knock his head off. So yeah, they're I think playing up the fact we sort of know. I'm sure they talk about it plenty. The fact that Lesnar has his amateur background and all that kind of thing. He just throws people about, and he's kind of positioned as he's cocky and he's brash and he's in Undertaker's face, but when it comes to it, he doesn't want to face Undertaker in that way. He wants to try and just wrestle him and beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he does do a good bit of that, a good bit of that sort of amateur wrestling with him.
Yeah.
I've got my notes here that Brock is just unbelievable at selling. There's times he's getting thrown over the ropes or clotheslined over the ropes or taking choke slams, whatever. He bumps so well for people and makes it look like a big deal, I think.
It's a shame he's not done it a lot, in like his second coming as a WWE star. It's just like, the suplex machine and the tap people out and stuff like that. Not really got memories of his second part of his career of him doing an awful lot of this kind of thing. You look at him, there's only so many guys that are believable that he would do that for. But yeah, it's something that it does seem like he was really good, and then it's just not been a thing.
I've got that. I don't have a huge amount of notes for this match, to be honest. I've just got a really good match, a lot of back and forth between the two of them, a lot of dominance for Undertaker, and then Lesnar goes back to the kind of mat wrestling, like you're saying. We get an eventual ref bump. And this match is a little odd. It's like it's quite an enjoyable match, and then somebody just goes like pushes a button and says, "Let's go weird with this." I'm sure there's a storyline reason why Matt Hardy comes out when the ref's down, but I didn't get it, and the commentary team didn't tell us why.
No, that baffled me. Like I've got a few notes before we get to that. You've got you've got some classic old school stuff from Undertaker. You've got him walking the rope and doing his like a
old school.
Yeah, they just call it old school.
School.
You've got Snake Eyes by Taker. You've got him really going at Lesnar with like body shots and things like that quite a lot of the time. You've got Heyman being taken out with a big boot from Undertaker, and then Lesnar with a spear and a suplex to Taker, and he does hold him in a bear hug for quite a while.
That's what he did to Hogan. He was ragdolling Hogan like that.
Yeah, of course. The fight breaking out to the outside quite a lot. We've got Taker going after Heyman, Lesnar hitting Taker with the title in the head. That busts Taker open.
That's right.
We've got Taker looking like he's about to go for the chokeslam, but Lesnar elbowing out of that. We've got Taker sending Lesnar to the turnbuckle. That's where the ref gets squashed, that one.
Right.
And then Taker hitting a chokeslam, but the ref being down. That's when Matt Hardy comes out. I've got absolutely no idea why he's here. What does he expect running into this situation? He's going to get his ass kicked. And there's the last ride. Yeah, I usually just expect the announcers to sort of clean up that kind of thing for you as to why he's there, why he would run in, why there's a beef.
I wonder if Lesnar destroyed both Hardys and Lita or something like that, maybe. There's something in the back of my mind tells me that. The thing that annoyed me about this match is it was quite decent. Like I said, we get the ref bump fine, but then we get another ref bump once the ref's back up again.
Yeah.
And that kind of just a bit of it's too much now. Taker hits Brock with like the most ridiculous of chair shots.
Yeah.
Two of them. First one bends the
didn't like
chair.
that.
Second one sends him flying out the ring. Was it all the same ref the whole match, or did we get a different ref towards the end? After the bump.
I don't have it in my notes saying...
It's a ref I didn't recognise.
Yeah, which would be unusual for the main event. Usually it's... usually you know who they are, but... Yeah, I've got like the ref getting squashed a third time.
Jesus.
Just while the two are... Yeah, I think it's right leading towards the end. It's while the two are brawling and won't stop, and it kind of... gets a little bit squashed by that because Lesnar tries to go for an F5 on Taker, but he counters and gets out of that. Taker had tried to hit Lesnar with the last ride, but he gets his way out of that as well. I think it was roundabout when the second ref bump happened that I thought there's going to be no clean winner here. This is not that type of match. It became clear they were going for a program, and there were going to be follow-up matches and things like that.
And like it's logical given the personal stuff, and nobody really does that sort of stuff to Undertaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I assume it ends up in a disqualification with Brock winning for the chair shots.
It's a double DQ.
Oh, it's a double
the ref
DQ.
just basically waves the match off. Yeah, it's. I had to look up on. It was more for match timings and things like that on one of the sites that gives you the match info, and it's a double DQ, so no winner. Which leaves it wide open. You know, obviously they want to continue this for a while, and they just keep fighting. And there's refs everywhere, and Taker gets his moment, his redemption moment, with a choke slam on Lesnar. And then Lesnar and Heyman just kind of start making their way up the stage, but Taker comes after them. Taker hits Lesnar with a flurry of knees, and then throws him through the "I've written paper unforgiven" sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always looks funny when you see them flying through it from behind. Really odd.
Yeah.
And that was that. That was their pay-per-view. I assume they get a rematch in for the next. That'd be possibly Survivor Series or something, maybe.
Yeah, there must be a follow-up. You couldn't just end it like that. So yeah, it was quite a good show, I thought.
I agree.
I thought some decent matches. You know, we talked about Flair Jericho, which I think we both enjoyed, and the finish stands out.
Yep.
I thought Edge and Eddie, I enjoyed that enough. Thought it was a decent match. And Benoit and Angle, obviously. And the pleasant surprise of the Triple H RVD. I think I went into it thinking I'm just not sure it'll mesh with the two of them, and I was very pleasantly surprised with what they came up with.
Yeah, same. I've got some of the Meltzer ratings here. Benoit Angle 4.5 stars.
Okay.
Triple H Van Dam 3.25. Guerrero Edge 3 3/4. I'd probably dispute that, but
yeah, I think it's a bit low on the Triple H RVD. To be fair.
Aye, the Oracle granted us. She was good to us with this one, I think.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed that. It was a good show.
And with that in mind,
oh no.
Consult the Oracle.
it's time. Shall we do it for our next one?
Yeah, let's do it. That thing creeps me out.
Don't say that. No one's just listening. She'll give us like 2017 Extreme Rules or something. Right, here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Welcome, Outlaws. I see you require me again. Today I've decided that for your next podcast you should watch NXT TakeOver Dallas. I do hope you enjoy. Okay. Let us look that one up. NXT TakeOver Dallas. That sounds like an early one, Adam, but I don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the card.
Oh, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
The Revival versus American Alpha.
I'm bang up for that, just because I really enjoyed American Alpha in that Survivor Series match. Yeah.
Austin Aries, Baron Corbin, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Bailey Asuka. Sounds alright.
I think this sounds quite good. I'm absolutely certain I've never seen this.
Yeah, just thinking the same. Corey Graves and Tom Phillips. Oh, we've even got some themes. This must be Triple H booked take NXT, and it's probably relatively short card as well.
So all the matches are decent length, which I think is a good sign, but there's not an awful lot of matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Oracle.
I think that'll be good.
I have no idea who wins any of these matches, and I'm always up for a bit of Finn Balor.
Yeah, I think this will be fun.
Awesome. So. Thanks, Oracle. Adam was just joking about you being creepy.
What are we going to do as a sound effect when she gives us something we're not so keen on? We don't get to boo the Oracle, do we?
Nah, probably best not to. She might
Okay.
just keep giving us crap.
Okay, fair.
We'll come with gifts for her. Okay, well, 2 weeks' time we'll talk about NXT TakeOver Dallas 2016. Until then, Adam, you take it easy.
You too, thank you.
Hit us up on Instagram at Outlaws Pod. And until then, we shall see you in 2 weeks. Cheers, Adam. Take it easy, buddy.
Cheers.